such a small population?
Yes, we are. I speak Niue fluently, and I expect our kids to speak Niue fluently. We've become aware since 2004, when Taonga Niue was established, that we were losing a lot of our language and cultural heritage and so on. That's why Taonga Niue was set up. So we're focusing our attention on that.
Mr. Talangi said that he's asked New Zealand to expedite development funds and that hasn't been successful. What was the substance of the discussion about that?
Well, there's about $4.5 million left in the Halavaka Fund. New Zealand is going to deploy its special envoy up here. It'll be Trevor Hall will be coming up here now, I understand, in early August, working with the Premier to look at the options for that funding. And as long as ultimately the New Zealand government is confident that those funds will be deployed in the right places, then those funds will be released.
He seems to be holding a bit of a gun to New Zealand's head, but he came out here and said, well, if New Zealand doesn't give us the money, we can get it from China.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that a bit of an overt?
Well, we work with many countries as they try and progress, small emerging nations. So from New Zealand's point of view, if China wants to be a donor, as it already is actually here in Niue, they're welcome to do that. I think there's a very special relationship between New Zealand and Niue. I mean, this is a small, distant, remote community of New Zealand passport holders where the vast bulk of Niueans live in New Zealand. And I think that's a special relationship that is likely to continue into the future. So China may play some investment role here, but I'd imagine New Zealand will continue to be the primary supplier of funds.
Aren't you concerned about the creeping influence of China in the Pacific?
Well, I think it's just a fact of life. I mean, we raised that issue with China when I was there on my visit, that I thought that it would be helpful if we could work together on ways to make sure that we're coordinating our donor programs so that we are delivering what is actually required. I mean, in the end, it's not a question so much of money, it's what that money is ultimately used for and where the progress is made. And in my view, New Zealand and Australia have a special relationship in the Pacific. We have a lot of knowledge, we have a great deal of history, and actually I think it can be beneficial if we work with other countries like China to make sure that that aid is hitting the mark.
Are you concerned that aid here in Niue has not been spent appropriately?
No, I wouldn't say that's the case, but there are real challenges here. This is a community of 1,600 people, 1,300 Niueans. It's a community where New Zealand's putting in quite a lot of aid and will continue to do so. But building a sustainable economic base, as the Premier has pointed out, is a very important part of the equation. We support him in that. Tourism will play an important part. Fishing may also. There may be some other isolated industries, but we need to work with them to make sure that the investment hits the mark, because in the end there's always a limit to resources.
Did you put to him in your meeting perhaps that New Zealand wanted to see efficiencies perhaps within the sort of government, civil service, etc.? I mean, we're tightening our belt back home.
No, I didn't really raise that. I mean, the Auditor General's raised issues in making sure that efficiencies are gained here in the way that resources are spent. But look, as a general rule, I think this is a very small community. They probably don't have the size of the bureaucracy clearly that a country like New Zealand has, or the challenges of understanding it. They're small enough to know what's going on.
Well, it says it's 10 years.
As you go about the Pacific, increasing aid that you're seen as Father Christmas now? You've got to come up with some good presents?
Well, I don't know if I'd still say it that way. As I say, it's been consistent with the view that the new government took, that we should be increasing our aid contribution. But as I said, it's not always about money either. It's ultimately about what those resources are used for. And in the case of Samoa and Tonga, and I think you'll find in the Cook Islands, we are increasing our aid levels, and I think they really can make a difference, and seen some fantastic sort of examples of that. In the case of Niue, it's a very special and it's a different set of circumstances. We already fund them at quite a high level. We did increase their operational budget funding by about 3%. And I'm confident that the rest of the Halavaka money will ultimately be released.
Mr. Taloa said that the boat is 10 years past its use-by date. I mean, do you really think the government's got a strong enough focus on this?
Yes, I do, but the previous government took a long time to consider all of the options because of the substantial cost increase. So this wasn't a fast-run process by the previous government. We've inherited it. We understand the issues, we understand the concerns that they have, and we are actively working to try and resolve the issue. But takes a little bit of time. Look, part of the purpose of being here today is to get a sense of what's happening. I mean, the Halavaka money so far hasn't been used to build sustainable economic development. It's actually been used to rebuild their hospital and to rebuild the effects of Cyclone Heta. Now, building a sustainable economic plan through their trust fund is a different issue, but I'm sure it's one that the Foreign Minister and I will consider. Nice.
Now when somebody says have a little fun, but they can manage because they need a fun and look after the
Prime Minister, from the talks and your visit today, how has it been?
Well, it's been a great opportunity to first-hand experience the issues here. Niue is a country that New Zealand cares an awful lot about. We take our responsibilities here very seriously. This is a group and a community of New Zealand passport holders that face some really significant challenges, and we need to work our way through those. I think we've got a sense of the opportunities and also got a sense of the frustrations. So we'll need to work through that. I'm confident progress will be made. New Zealand is sending a special envoy, Niue, up here in August. He'll work through those proposals, report back to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and with a bit of luck, the $4.5 million that's there in the Halavaka Fund will be able to be released for the economic development that the people of Niue want.
Now, looking at the Halavaka that we're talking about, is there going to be another one? I mean, obviously you said there's only 4.5 million that's left.
At this stage, that's something we haven't considered. I'm not ruling it out. It's just something that Cabinet has had an opportunity to consider. In part, that's because the current fund hasn't been exhausted. We are quite happy to sit down with the Premier and with the Cabinet from Niue and to sort of discuss what the opportunities might be. We realise that there's a shortage of capital here, so we'll work our way through that. But at this stage, it's too early to comment on that.
Now, one of the comments to the Niue community from one of your officials in New Zealand is that the aid to Niue should be halved. Do you agree with that?
No, and that's not really something that's ever been considered. We currently put about 16